Hi, we're here at Wapato Mortgage today to talk about fire safety for floating homes and floating home marinas. Just as a quick reminder, in case you didn't see that beautiful Ivy video we did for the City of St. Helens, my name is Emily. I'm with the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council, and I'm here today with the City of Scappoose Fire District staff to discuss how mortgages and floating homeowners can make sure that they are ready for reducing fire risk at their floating homes and marinas. But before we get started on teaching a little bit about what you can do to help make sure that your mortgage is not at risk of fire, we're going to introduce the stars of this video.
Hi, I'm Josh Marks. I'm a division chief here at Scappoose Fire District. I've been there for 19 years and glad to share some knowledge with you today.
I'm Keith Matthews. I'm a firefighter EMT with Scappoose Rural Fire District, and I've been there for 4 years.
So, one of the biggest things that I certainly was not aware of until I started learning about how floating homes are trying to need to protect themselves from fire risk is the fact that for the fire staff, paramedics, and EMTs, they need to be able to have an easy way to know how to get to each floating home or to a specific area within the mortgage. So, what are some really good things to keep in mind as homeowners or floating home mortgage managers when setting up maps or ensuring that people and visitors are able to find the correct locations?
Yeah, so when we're setting up a map here, we want a nice, easy numerical system so that when we're trying to find somebody, it's going to be easier for us so we can get to you quicker. Not necessarily on this map, but if you do call 911, a phone number is a really great, helpful thing in case we need to call you and contact you if we're not able to find the slip that you're in.
Would it be good for mortgages to have like a little sheet of numbers to call with addresses and slip numbers attached?
Yeah, that would be great. If we have addresses and names, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
What are some other things that floating homeowners can do to help make sure that it's easy to find their house outside of this map?
Nice, easy walkways. Sometimes we see walkways that have objects on them, and then we have to navigate around them. So if we have a nice, easy path to the mortgage that we need to get to, it helps us out a lot.
So making sure that we don't have flower pots or
100%.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I need to make sure that I take care of my porch when I get back home.
exactly.
And I don't know if you could call this earthquake country, but we are near Mount Hood. We have had St. Helens erupt, as my mother called me on the anniversary to remind me about. So I can imagine that there's probably times where you could get called out to an emergency and you're unable to access the mortgage. Let's say the ramp collapsed or there's problems getting in touch with the person who called 911. What would be a really great thing to have available on this information board so that if you're here on an emergency or here to help out, you can know who to get in touch with and know what to get in touch with for?
Yeah, so the best thing to add to this is going to be a piece of paper, or even on here, uh, the name of the responsible party, somebody that we can get in contact with, and a phone number, so that if we do have access issues or we need help finding something, we can get in contact with them directly, and they'll be able to quickly get us to where we need to go.
So it's kind of just like providing every possible source of information you could think of and things you don't think are necessary.
Exactly, yep.
All right, well, we're going to go take a walk down Wapato Mortgage and just see some of the real life examples of what floating homeowners need to do to ensure their mortgages are fire ready.
So when I was driving here to do the video today, it really helped me to have this big, beautiful set of numbers. And I just want to know, for emergency responders, does having a large set of numbers like this make it easier for you to find the mortgages?
So these numbers here are great. As you can see over here on this sign or on this post are the old numbers that used to be there. Especially at nighttime when we're driving by in an emergency incident, we're going to be going quickly. Having large offsetting numbers or offsetting contrasting colors for the numbers on the sign lets us know farther down to be able to slow down and get into the entrance of the mortgage. That decreases response time, lets us get to you in your medical emergency faster or in a fire incident any kind of emergency response. The good thing with this sign is it's easy to see. Like I said, they're contrasting colors. The only better thing would be if they were reflective. But this sign is a lot better than the old sign used to be.
So, if nothing else, Morages should really try to make sure they have at least a really good address sign.
Correct. And again, talk to your fire marshal's office. I know in the Scappoose Fire District, our fire marshal, our fire code has very specific address markings, depending on how fast you are on the roadway, what area you're in, those kind of things. So again, talk to your fire marshal's office, your fire district about roadway markings.
Thank you so much for taking the time to explain roadway marking sign importance. And so, if nothing else, think about it this. You want to make sure that any rescue staff, any fire personnel can get through and as efficiently as possible to you.
So can you explain to us why this sign that says slips in one direction, flips in another direction is so helpful for you as fire staff and for rescuers?
Yeah, definitely. So this is really great. It's telling us that slips 1 through 33 are going to be down that way, and 36 through 70 are going to be down that way. Night when we're groggy, just waking up, and we get a call, and we come down and we see this, and it's nice and illuminated. We can say, okay, we got slip 25, we're going down this way, or we got slip 50, we're going to go down this way. It's just really great navigation for us. We definitely would like to see nice, big, bold lettering so that it's easy for us to read.
Saves you a lot of time, I imagine.
Definitely, yeah.
And then I noticed that along with this cute little rabbit, there's this beautiful number that says 33. So, and I also see that there's a sign that says this is slip 33. So
Yeah.
is this helpful to you as a fire rescuer to see this?
These big numbers here are really great. That's going to be easy for us to see at night. We would like to see this illuminated, just so that if it's too dark, we might miss it. So we definitely like to see that illuminated a little bit. But nice big bold letters there. It kind of grabs your attention. It has the little rabbit there, so we know this is going to be slip 33 for us.
And besides having big bold letters and some type of a reflective surface, and as you said, a light to illuminate it, are there any other ways that mortgage owners and residents can, make sure that their number is highly visible and like you see it the minute you go to the house?
Yeah, so this is great being, big bold letters, but if it's going to be at eye level, that's going to be easier for us to see so that we're not looking down at our feet. We're looking and scanning and seeing where we're going, and we can see it on the building.
And then one last question I did have. So should this also be reflective material or something shiny that would catch your attention, or is the material, or is this
Yeah, that would be really helpful. This sign's a little bit older, which is fine, but something with a little bit more reflection so that we can see those numbers a little bit easier is going to be very helpful.
Fantastic. So this personally reminds me of the hose we have at the nursery, but I know it's for a much more important reason than that. And I would love if you'd be willing to give us an explanation of how this system is used and why it's so important for mortgages to make sure that they have working pump systems and access point for the water system.
So what this is called an FDC, or a fire department connection. What it does is it has these pipes that run the entire length of the moorage and gives us valves and areas that we connect our hoses to be able to extinguish fires that happen down here. If we didn't have a fire department connection or an FDC standpipe type system, what we would have to do is bring our portable pumps that weigh 150 to 200 pounds and carry them all the way down the length of the moorage. What this system allows us to do is connect to one of these closer to the entrance ramp and charge the entire system up. And then we just have to carry our hoses and not all the equipment down with us. Later into the fire, after it arrives, we can connect one of the fire boats that we have access to. We have a fireboat here in Scappoose. Cowlitz County Fire and Rescue over in Ridgefield has one. And the city of Portland has quite a few fireboats that we have access to be able to extinguish moorage fires. But it's a time saver for us to have this type of system available for our crews to be able to
effectively extinguish a fire in a more timely manner.
Mhm.
It's important to keep them marked like they are, nice reflective tape around, and to keep them clear of any storage or debris, anything off the walkways, so we can easily access them and get to work.
So then do homeowners need to do like test runs, or how do you make sure that they're in operating order outside of a fire?
They do. The system needs to be tested on a regular basis. Not being a fire marshal, I can't tell you what the regular basis is, but if you contact the fire marshal at your respective organization, your respective fire district, they can explain that to you. But making sure and ensuring that these systems work saves time, and it saves property, houses, and lives.
So the old saying, be prepared, really applies when it comes to FDCs?
Correct, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So before I begin my next set of questions, I would like to stress that when it comes to knowing your state or your county specific codes, the best thing to do is to contact your local fire marshal or fire district office. But at the same time, keeping in mind that we are in this environment surrounded by water, there are still a lot of things you have to keep in mind when it comes to the structural safety and the spacing safety of your morages and your floating homes. So right here, we're looking out in front of this beautiful empty slip that is going to eventually be home to a floating house. And I would just like to ask for as much information as you can give me about what are some key things when it comes to keeping floating homes safe in terms of spacing and structure that you think are the most important to be aware of?
Well, some of the key things that we can see on both of these two houses here is the walkway between them, right? If they're on a typical house that we run into on the land, we have full and complete access to go on all sides of the structure. Down here on the water, well, I know I can't walk on water, so we need these walkways to be able to access all the different areas of the structure if it were to catch fire. Talking to your local fire marshal or building departments to find out that the exact spacing is critical. An 8-foot distance of wall separation is good. Now, there are ways that you can work around that and decrease that distance a little bit, and one of those is fire sprinklers. We're surrounded by water, right? So you don't need to tie into a water line, a water system, anything like that. And a fire sprinkler system is about $4,000 for a 2,000 square foot home. Again, rule of thumb numbers, just what we talk about with contractors and stuff. That $4,000 over the lifetime of a mortgage is a drop in the bucket, and that could save you a lot of time, save us a lot of time for a fire that were to happen down here. Mortgage fires are very difficult to fight. It takes a lot of manpower, which most fire agencies don't have, and it takes a lot of time to get equipment and those kind of things down here. If you were to have a fire sprinkler system in your house and just pump straight out of the channel, you could save us time, and you could save your own house with that $4,000 investment. Though that's one of the key factors. I know we were talking to to Ish about a house that was planned to be here that couldn't move in here because of an 1.5 inch separation on each side. They built the house too big to fit in the slip to have the separation distance needed. Again, they could have put that sprinkler system in, asked for a variance, and more than likely it would be in here right now.
So it really sounds to me like if you have the luxury to build, or if you have the option to remodel or structure your house, to really think about either bringing in some type of a fire suppression system or really making sure you know what kind of codes and structural compliances need to be in place, so that you're not just thinking about having a beautiful porch that's going to let you see all the birds and wildlife, but you're also making sure that it's fire safe and fire ready as well.
Exactly. Understanding those codes, making sure your contractor understands those codes are vital for making that investment. If things aren't up to code and things aren't signed off by the fire district, you're not going to be able to move into your house. And that's what it really comes down to. And so that investment that you made, that $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, might just be out the window because you can't put it in where you thought that it was going to go.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, when you have any questions for codes, the best place is just to contact the local fire districts.
Correct.
Okay.
For the fire district, the fire marshal for the organization. And if they don't have the answer, they will typically research it, find it out for you, or refer you to the correct authority to find it out.
We've talked a lot about how to make sure your mortgage is structurally as ready as possible, where to find more information on codes, and also things to keep in mind when it comes to making sure that it's easy for you and other emergency responders to get to the right house and get to the right mortgage location. Obviously, people play a big part in making sure that a mortgage is able to respond in any fire situation or emergency situation. So, if God forbid a mortgage house does catch on fire, what are some things that people could do or should be thinking about doing in order to prepare for the worst case scenario?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you got to have an escape plan.
Okay.
So if you're living with your family, if you have young kids, making a plan on what happens if there's a fire. We're gonna get out of the house. We're gonna meet at a certain spot, so that we know that we're all there. First of all, we want to make sure everybody got out of the house.
Yeah.
Don't go back into the house once you're out. Once you're out of the house, stay out. Once we get here, we're going to come and assess, and then we're going to decide who we need to get up and get out. And usually it's going to be everybody that's going to be within that slip, that mortgage, and we're going to start knocking on doors and getting everybody to a safe spot so that we can fight that fire and not have to worry about any other potential victims. Another big thing is fire extinguishers. They're going to be a big help. Usually we recommend a fire extinguisher every 50 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're going to look for a 4A fire extinguisher. It's going to be the best extinguisher for us to use, or for you to use, until we get here.
So should people just concern themselves with getting everyone out, or should they try to start fighting the fire in any way possible, whether it be using the fire extinguisher or bucket brigade?
Our biggest recommendation is let the professionals deal with the fire.
Okay.
You guys need to get to a safe spot and make sure everybody's safe.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get here in time to start working on that fire. We don't want you to start fighting that.
Along with having a personalized plan for each individual homeowner, is it recommended for mortgages to have a fire plan, or at least some type of a discussion, so that the residents all have a sense of what to do or what could happen and how to take their own steps to prepare?
Yeah, on mortgages, everybody's kind of close down here, so you want to be able to make sure you can get in contact with somebody. Not necessarily a phone tree, but some way to get in contact with your neighbors and the responsible party of the mortgage, so that they can start helping move people out of their homes, so that we can get to the fire easily.
Okay. And when I was trying to think about what could be some things that would be beneficial for individual residents to have, would an air horn be a good thing to have and to alert people in case of an emergency?
Air horns and nice and loud. I think everybody can hear them around here, and I think everybody that lives in a mortgage knows what an air horn sounds like. So if they're sleeping, it might wake them up. So that's probably a good idea to get people to alert them. If you can't knock on their door hard enough, or maybe they just need something a little bit louder, that's a great tool to use.
Okay. Key thing being only use it in emergencies, so people know this is a situation to respond to.
Definitely, yeah.
Got it. But I also heard that there's something called EDIF that can help people think about how to prepare. Who is EDIF?
Yeah, EDIF, Exit Drills in the Home.
Okay.
So it's an acronym that we use, and it's basically practicing exit drills, maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter. You're practicing with your family on what you're going to do to get out of that fire safely. And then just down here on the mortgage, you do want to remember that sometimes you may get a different dispatch. So you definitely want to remember that when you're calling 911, make sure that you're getting the Oregon dispatch if you're on the Oregon side, and the Cowlitz County or the Clark County dispatch if you're on the Washington
So
side.
I should not assume that the 911 dispatcher is going to immediately know through some technological quirk that I'm in Columbia County or state of Oregon off of Sauvie Island. I'm going to have to make sure that they understand where I am.
Exactly, yeah. And that's just another tool for us to get to you quicker.
One of the other things that I've heard is very important to keep in mind for mortgage safety is electricity. What are some things that mortgages and mortgage owners need to keep in mind in terms of making sure that they are aware of voltage if it does get into the water, and they can also take the steps to prevent it from happening?
Well, I know that they do have systems to be able to detect stray current in the water. And what happens is as you can see, the lines are all running underneath the dock, right? And if one of those conduits breaks and the line gets into the water, it will produce stray current around the structure. As far as what they can do, they like I said, they do offer, and you can buy stray current devices to be able to detect that in the water. If you fall into the water, if you step into the water, if you go and dip your toe into the water on a warm day to cool yourself off, if there's stray current in the water, all that current's just coming right up through your body, and you're either going to go into the water and drown, you're going to get electrocuted. There's a plethora of things. There are a lot of documented cases of this happening, not only from houseboats, but from boat houses and boats as well. The boats have batteries in them. They have battery chargers. Everything's plugged in. Even if it's a personal one and you just check around your own structure, it's very vital to do for life preservation. I know I wouldn't want my kids jumping off the back of my dock on a floating home and have them go out. There are stories from local stories of that happening. It's not a nationwide thing. It's not like a brother of a brother of a brother. I've been on calls where this has happened to husband and wife's son. There are some very good companies locally and some very good people locally who have been through that situation, did a lot of research into it, and are very knowledgeable on stray current in waterways. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary is a good organization to contact and try to find some of those people to come out, do surveys, give you good options on how to protect yourself and your structure and people for that.
It's horrible that so many people have had that happen to them. But one thing I just want to make clear too is that if someone does fall into the water and it does look like there's signs of electricity,
don't jump in after.
Don't jump in after.
Because that current's still there.
Yeah.
Because one person went into the water and they drowned or got electrocuted from it, doesn't mean that current goes away. That wire's still live. They're still in the same spot, still in the same water, and if you go to grab them, there's a good chance, high probability, that you're going to get electrocuted and end up in the same way.
Call the professionals.
Call the professionals, yeah. If they're not moving in the water, call the professionals, yeah.
If you're able to bring that person out, should you do pulmonary resuscitation?
If you're trained to,
Yeah.
But at the same time, right, if you call 911, all the dispatchers are trained to give you instructions on how to do CPR over the phone.
Okay.
So if you are able to get somebody out of the water, they're not conscious, they're not breathing, they don't have any pulse, make sure, if you're not trained, the dispatchers or the call takers will instruct you on how to do that.
Back to discussing how to start assessing for voltage in the water. If you do have a sensor and you are able to get one, how often should you be trying to check the water to make sure that you don't have a stray current floating about? Is there a good recommended time frame, or is it just whenever you can?
How often?
Yeah.
I would say if you possibly could, do it all the time, because you don't know when that conduit's going to fall in the water, break the connection, the wires degrade over time. You never know when it's going to happen. So active monitoring is the best way to do it. Even if it's around just your own structure, it's the best way. I don't know what the liability would be on it, right? If somebody were to fall into your house and they go, when was the last time it was inspected? I don't know. Right. I don't know what the liability would be to the homeowner at that point. Homeowner, the moorage, anything like that.
So it's not just good for the community to do it, it's also good for your own personal...
Correct, yeah. I mean, there's reasons why people live down on the water, right?
Yes.
They want to be able to wake up on a hot morning if they want to, go jump off their back deck, swim around a little bit, cool off, come back in, and relax.
Totally.
You go do that after something like this, it could be your last one. One other thing that I did want to point out real quick is the fire extinguishers. If we were to come down and do an inspection on the moorage, which we occasionally do, we can't see the label when the last time the fire extinguishers were inspected. You really want to have your extinguishers inspected by a professional on an annual basis. And the property owner, the moorage, or the resident really should be able to get in there, take a look at it to make sure that the gauge is properly in the right spot, and to make sure that no bees, no bugs, or anything have crawled up inside the nozzle to block that fire extinguisher, make it unusable.
This is a good example of what type of fire extinguisher we need to have. I think you said it was every 50 feet or so on the docks?
Yeah. And what's really great about this one is it's an ABC fire extinguisher. So it puts out your typical trash, wood. It also puts out, it helps put out flammable liquids, maybe gasoline, so electrical fires as well.
Mhm.
So this is a combination. It's a 3A 40BC firefighter, so that's the amount of fire it'll put out for you. And what's really great here is it tells you in the gauge there, you can see that it's in the green, so you know it's going to be good to go. And a lot of times, this is Ish's personal fire extinguisher, so he doesn't have it on here, but a lot of times you'll see at a commercial building, there's going to be a tag hanging off of this, letting you know when you need to get this fire extinguisher reevaluated. Maybe you need to get it hydrostatic tested, and maybe you need to replace it. But we'll have professionals come in who know what they're doing, know how to test those, and make sure that it's good to go for you.
And it's been a few years since I've had to even learn about how to use a fire extinguisher. So what are some key things to keep in mind if, let's say I don't have one, but let's say in my 50-year retirement plan dream, I do have a floating home and I set a bacon grease fire and I want to just put it out really quickly before I have to call you and say, hi Keith, it's Emily, and I set fire to my floating home.
Yeah. So we like to use an acronym called PASS, and that's pull,
Okay.
aim, squeeze, and sweep. So you're going to stand about 10 feet back from whatever you're trying to use this on.
Okay.
You're going to pull the pin. You're going to aim the nozzle at the fire. You're going to squeeze the handle, and then you're going to sweep back and forth until the fire's out or until that's empty.
And this is just a really great thing for all residents in the floating home mortgage to have just for their own personal fire protection kit.
Yeah, this is going to be really great for really any homeowner to have, but definitely down in the mortgage if they can get a little bit of a break from the fire and then get out of that house so we can show up and really get the water on it.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much
Right
for providing
You're
us a
welcome.
personal fire hydrant.
Like you said, we have one, almost every room in the house. They've talked about response times. It's going to be 10 or 12 minutes before somebody even shows up to put out the fire in my house. If I can put it out before they have to arrive, all the more power to me. Otherwise, I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to get out, and the house will be a total loss. At least this will buy a couple of seconds to save our lives.
And
Thanks.
save your puppies'
Yeah,
lives.
get those puppies out.
So today we learned a lot about how mortgage owners and mortgage managers can help make sure that they're fire ready, that they have information on how to help themselves, their neighbors, and their residents make sure their mortgage is as prepared as possible to minimize the risk of fire, to make sure that people have a plan, and so that people know where to get information. I just want to reiterate, if you have any questions about codes or regulations, contact your local fire marshal, contact your fire district. There's never such a thing as a foolish question, and the more information you have, the better prepared you will be. That being said, we just want to take this time to not only thank everyone for watching this video, but also remind people that we have a booklet that was published as part of an agreement between the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council and the West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. This booklet not only contains information about fire safety issues at mortgages, but it's also a wonderful resource for other questions you may have about living on the mortgage, living within riparian or river habitats. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact either the Scappoose Bay Watershed Council, the Sauvie Island Fire District, the Scappoose Fire District, and of course, West Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District. If you like this video, please feel free to email us and let us know, and please feel free to reach out to us and let us know what other videos you would like for us to make. We're always happy to give you any information that we have available to us, and just stop by our office at the Scappoose Bay Marina. We'd love to say hello.